Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday. All the things today. I am running a bit on Hawaiian time, or as Muddy would call it, Aloha time. So I'm here. Yeah. Whew. Anyways, all the fun's with the lives, right? So, last month, good morning, Muddy. I was just saying I was running on Hawaiian timer, as you noted, it is being called Aloha time. So we're on Aloha time today, but yeah, I'm here now, as I said. So, last month, or maybe it was the end of May, I did a show on cognitive distortions, or recognizing cognitive distortions. So, I figured today and tomorrow are going to be the last 2 days for this week, only because Thursday, my dad has a doctor's appointment at the same time as my show, so the show will not go on that day. So we'll go, I'll be back the following Monday, because Friday is a holiday and I always take holidays off anyways. But I wanted to build on cognitive distortion. So again, this is from Karma Gaia, and I really love their stuff. They make nice little memes that you can, post around. So I do like to give credit where credit is deserved. And today and tomorrow will be brought to you by Karma Gaia via my mouth. So we covered the basics before, recognizing cognitive distortions. So today we're going to go over 12 of them really quickly. And then tomorrow the examples may vary, but it's going to give you how to challenge these things. So, number one. So again, common cognitive distortions. Catastrophizing. I think I got that word right. Catastrophizing. When you expect the worst case scenario to happen to you. So let's just go through these and then we'll talk about them, okay? Number two, mind reading. Okay, Houdini. When you assume you know what others are thinking or feeling. Number three, negative focus. When you ignore the positive aspects and only see the negative ones. Number four, control fallacy. When you assume you can control everything that happens in your life. Number five, personalization, when you feel personally responsible for things you can't control. Number six, owning the truth, when you are certain you are right and your opinion is the truth. Number seven, should thinking, when you have rules or expectations of how things or people should react. 8, emotional reasoning, when you believe that how you feel is evidence or reflects reality. Number 9, overgeneralizing, when a single negative event occurs and you believe it's a pattern. 10, labeling, when you label yourself or someone negatively, such as I'm a loser. 11, just world thinking, when you assume that everything in the world will be balanced fairly. And number 12, fortune telling, when you think the future is set in stone and the outcome is sure. Okay, Madam Leota. Again, tomorrow we'll go over the 10 most common cognitive distortions and how to challenge them. But let's go back through these today. So, so let's see. Catastrophizing. Am I saying that right? Like, seriously. I mean, Sammy, am I saying... I just feel like I'm mucking up this word, like big time. But anyways, catastrophizing. When you expect the worst case scenario to happen to you. So this could be, like phobia related, right? When you're expecting the worst. You go to a circus and you expect the clown to just come out of the crowd and murder you. All right. Believe it or not, that's a thing. I do not like circuses because I do not like clowns. Now, I feel like, okay, she thinks I'm saying it right. So that's another person that agrees with me. I'm good. That's all I need. Thank you very much. But no, I mean, I know that's like a worst case scenario, but that's also overthinking, right? And overgeneralizing can also be overthinking, but that's number 9. So let's stay on number 1, catastrophizing, when you expect the worst case scenario to happen to you. I kind of covered this before, right? When I talked about how I did not like to drive between big rig trucks. Now, box trucks, I swear anybody can just get behind those. But I would say 99% of the big wheel truckers out there are awesome drivers. They are better drivers than we are. Then there's that 1% that make the rest of them look bad, right? Like in any scenario. So, I used to hate driving between them because my first thought was, oh, they're going to come together and they're going to squish me. But I had a trauma early in my life that caused that before I ever learned how to drive. So of course, I'm catastrophizing, that. But a lot of people like, well, I can't walk out my door today because something bad might happen, but something good might happen. But we get stuck in our negative thinking. And because we get stuck in our negative thinking, we just automatically assume that everything bad is going to happen. And so we catastrophize. Sorry, I'm just proud of myself for saying it. Everything. What if I fall down in the shower? What if I fall down the stairs? What if I, can't make it back up the stairs? Well, if you made it down, you could probably make it up. But how do you know? How do you know that these things are going to happen to you? Because you're just assuming they are. You're kind of putting it out there. And then if it does happen, to me, it's because you put it out to the universe and the universe said, okay. Because here's the thing. I do truly believe that what we put out there, we get back. It's an energy thing. If you put bad stuff out there, you're going to get bad stuff back, right? I'll give you the quick example. You stub your toe in the morning and you're like, okay, really? Is it going to be that kind of day? But maybe you laugh it off. But then you hit something else, right? And you're just kind of like, maybe your knee hits the coffee table and you're like, oh, fudge, it's going to be that kind of day. And then you just let your day go downhill. And then watch. Everything that happens is just going to be like, oh, I knew this was going to be a bad day. Because you're making it a bad day. It's all about how you see things and how we react to things. But if you laugh both of those things off both times, it's just kind of like, okay. Like this morning, I can't seem to hold on to a damn thing. I mean, everything keeps just popping out of my hands. And I'm just kind of like, really, really, really right now? And I almost got mad about it because it's just kind of like, at this point, it just feels like something's knocking shit out of my hands. But it's kind of like, okay, fine, whatever. Have your fun. I don't care. You are not going to mess with my day. I am going to have a good day. So, do your best to expect, do your best to expect the best. The best may not always happen, you may not have the greatest of days, but if we put it out there that, we're ready and willing to face the world, then good things are probably going to come from it. You just have to trust it and stop catastrophizing. Okay, and I know easier said than done. And remember, I'm just going to put this out there. If you need professional help, don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. I mean, like I said, they do it where you can do it on your phone now, or on phone calls, or on video calls, or on Zoom. There are so many different ways now where nobody has to know if you don't want them to know. All right. No, it's your business. Whether you choose to share it or not is up to you. It's nobody else's business what you do to take care of yourself. So number 2, mind reading. When you assume you know what others are thinking or feeling. I have to admit, I am guilty of this, like legit guilty of this, because I can get so insecure sometimes that I just assume, I assume I am just clear on what everyone else is thinking. It's just kind of like, yeah, So, oh, that's really good. I thought I'd try something different today since I didn't have time to go out. I got myself the Starbucks cold brew. Chocolate cream. It's pretty delightful. Anyways, not a product endorsement, just a happy me. Let's see. Oh, okay, sorry. I read an old comment. So anyways, mind reading. When you assume you know what others are thinking or feeling, we all do this. Don't tell me you've never done this, because I know we all do this. And it could be for a number of reasons, but for me, it's my own insecurities. It's like, well, I know you're mad at me, or, or I know that you're, wanting me to do this, or wanting me, or expecting me. And it's like, I don't know what they're thinking. So how do we get past mind reading? We just ask them, is there something that I've done that has upset you? Because you seem upset. And you don't even have to ask that, because you're still assuming that it's you, right? You can just say, are you okay? Is something upsetting you? And if they kind of don't want to say anything, say, look, you know what? We're friends, we're family, whatever. If it's me, you got to tell me, because I can't fix it if you don't. But yeah, I think one of the most common cognitive distortions really is mind reading, because a lot of times we just assume we know what other people are thinking or feeling. And that can be a dangerous slippery slope, especially in relationships, right? People in relationships can just think, or if they're having a very insecure day, they might sit there and go, and just overthink everything, right? Catastrophize everything. And then all of a sudden the person, your person is just kind of like public enemy number one, in the sense that you're like, well, I know you're mad at me. I mean, they may just be quiet because they're just reading something, or maybe they're watching TV, or maybe they're super focused, or maybe they're daydreaming, but all of a sudden it's about you. So one of the ways that we can try to fix that is self-love. Okay, self-love. I mean, if you haven't done anything that you know of to upset somebody, then, you can't just automatically assume that you know what they're thinking or they're feeling. Or maybe somebody had a bad day and, they're just trying to move past it. Whatever it is, don't be a mind reader. All right. And I promise I will not be either. I will do my best to not be a mind reader. I'm actually getting very good at not doing that and just asking, are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? And if I have done something, or I have been, just out of my mind, dumbed on some days, because I'm human, I will say, is it something I did? Because if it is, you need to tell me, and it can be hard, because a lot of times people don't want to have confrontation. They don't want to be confrontational. I'm like, what are these words? And so they won't say anything. Older siblings like that. Older sibling is definitely non-confrontational. And so sometimes if it is something I feel like I've done, I have to ask. Although I have to say, like I said, I am guilty of mind reading. So of mind reading. So anyways, number 3, negative focus. When you ignore the positive aspects and only see the negative ones. I think we've all been guilty of this, right? So especially if you struggle with insecurity. Good morning, older sibling. Just so you know, I saw you texting me, but I had already started the show, so I couldn't respond. So hopefully that was enough to tell you that I'm doing a show today. So, which is funny that she asked me that, because this morning I talked to her and she asked me what the show was about. So, and this is a cute cup. I got it for like $2 at Target. So, anyways, yeah, Sammy too. I'm too non-confrontational. And older sibling says it depends on the situation. So, let me share a little bit about older sibling. If it has to do with her, she's going to shut down. If it has to do with somebody else, like say somebody's picking on me, Mini Mite is right in front of me. That's what I call her, Mini Mite. Not to be mean, she's just a little shorter than me. I know I'm average size, but when I'm taller than somebody, I brag. So I'm so bad. I'm such a bad human. But sorry. God, does this stuff have caffeine in it? Hold on. I gotta see. Oh, Lord have mercy if it does. Sorry guys. I know. Oh, it definitely has sugar. I don't see caffeine though. I'm sure it does. Oh, yep, there it is. Caffeine. Sorry. I know, see? It hits so fast. But, or maybe I'm just giggly. I don't know. Because, I think I made myself laugh with Mini Mite. So I do apologize, sibling. You know I love you. But anyways, but yeah, so that's, you know, that's, and Sammy says the same thing. Now, these two are very close, you know, with birthdays and stuff. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me. You know, it doesn't surprise me. My two flower children. But, you know, but they also seem to handle things better. I think a lot of times people I think a lot of times people become confrontational. A lot of times because of the negative focus. When you ignore the positive aspects and only see the negative ones, sometimes people will go out there because they have all this ick, right? Just building up in them. And then it's almost like they need to pick a fight with someone. Because, or, you know, sometimes even with people they don't know, just because there's so much anger inside, right? There is just, you know, I do not know what is wrong with my brain today. Okay. Because I'm struggling to put sentences together here and find words out of the sky. But when we focus on the negative things, you know, like, I used to be very confrontational. Now, I do like to stick up for my people, and I'm one of those people now that you really have to push me over the edge for me to really kind of just bristle. And, you know, older sibling has helped me with that. You know, Sammy and I have talked some of these things through. Baby sibling has helped me with this. Bestie has helped me with this, because I used to, my own trauma, you know, from my own childhood trauma caused just, you know, it caused a lot of cognitive distortions in me. And because of that, it sometimes made me confrontational. Like I said, it was almost like, think of it as like a teapot, right? You put the kettle on the stove, or for those of you overseas who have the electric kettle, you know, whatever it is, you put the cool water and, you know, you start to heat it up. And this can be a person sometimes. You know, in this case, it's the flames that are, or the electricity, whichever. Well, we're just going to go with a basic tea kettle, okay? It's the flames making it warmer and warmer and warmer until finally the whistle blows through that tiny little hole that you pour the water out of. And, you know, that's kind of with people. It can be something that builds and builds and builds. You know, maybe traffic was bad one day. And if you have unhealed trauma, it could be something as triggering as just, you know, good things happening to you, and you don't know how to deal with it because you're not used to it, because you're not used to looking at the positive things. Positive things happen around us every day. You could be driving down the freeway and someone lets you over and, you know, you thank them and everything. That's a positive interaction, but you may not think that because you're so stuck in your head and feeling negative about the 4 other cars that didn't let you over, that you forget about the one that did. It can be something as simple as that. And no, I don't do that. I get mad at people when they don't let me over, but I mean, that's just myself. I'm just like, really? You know, but I'm always grateful to that one person that says, hey, come on over. It's like, thanks. So we really have to learn how to switch focus. Okay. How to switch focus and, you know, see the positive aspects, not just the negative ones. Sometimes negative things get thrown at us so that we can, you know, get to the point where sometimes maybe we just hit bottom, so that we sit there and say, what can I do to make this better? And then, you know, maybe you get the help. Maybe someone listens to you. You know, maybe someone says, oh, hey, you know what? I can help you with this. I'm lucky to have had that kind of support group. I am absolutely lucky to have had that kind of support group. And it wasn't until I started doing these shows that I realized, oh my God, I have got an amazing support group. I have an amazing group of people who help me through all my shit. You know, who literally will combat me, not physically, but with brain power to just bring me back inside my body because they care. And not everybody has that. So I think I need to send out some thank you cards. But so number 4, control fallacy. When you assume you can control everything that happens in your life. Now, The interesting thing about all these is that catastrophizing, mind reading, negative focus, control fallacy, even the next one, personalization, they all feel like they can go together if it's somebody who has struggled with trauma in their life. And it could be any kind of trauma. Even a PTSD from an accident can cause someone to just be out of their mind. It could have been like a seriously like wild accident. All right. Sorry guys. It's like, what is happening here? It could be some crazy wild accident that happened and it's just put someone on edge. And because it's put this person on edge, they may just be lashing out, not even realizing they're doing it. PTSD is a crazy thing. And now they have what they call CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So and this is how they separate it, just really quickly as a sidebar. PTSD is labeled more now for people like if there is a major accident or, maybe a major event in their life that it's kind of like just upended them. Whereas CPTSD is being more geared now towards people who have a prolonged exposure to stressful situations. So, even though we used to say our veterans would suffer from PTSD, if they had a long, like if they've been in war, if they've, seen combat, they have lately been moved into the complex PTSD because it's a long, it's long exposure to something very traumatic and very, stress inducing. So, and that's something I want to do a show on. I again, I'm getting a lot of my inspiration from Criminal Minds, which I'm not sure is a good thing, but it does make me think, and it does jog my memory, or not jog my memory, but it jogs the brain cells and says, this is stuff that we really need to bring attention to. So stay tuned because I got a lot of research to do on those. That one and another one that I'll talk about another time. But let's stick with cognitive distortions because my brain is firing in 9 directions right now. So control fallacy, when you assume you can control everything that happens in your life. For me personally, that came with my trauma because I couldn't control what happened to me, even though people thought I could. When you're groomed very young, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome, okay? But, because of that, we try to control everything else, right? And, childhood trauma can cause a lot of those issues. One big event can cause a lot of those issues. It could be a generational thing, my grandmother, we called her the general for a reason. And I swear sometimes my mom was like the major general because, they could be controlling, not to the degree that it was, like a helicopter person, but you always knew who was in charge when it came to like when we would go camping out with the family. Not really camping, I mean they were cabins, okay, but still, when we would go out camping by the beach, the general always in charge, do this, unload this, you take this. I mean, but it was always organized. And in my family household, it was pretty even across the board, but I was the one with the least amount of control because I'm the kid. But growing up, because I had heart surgery when I was little, my mom controlled everything I did, what I ate, and I mean that in the sense that I was allowed to pick, but I wasn't an overeater, till now. Emotional eating became my crutch, but like I had to ask for sodas. I used to have to ask for candy. The only thing I didn't have to ask for was gum, unless it was in my mom's purse. But it's that kind of control thing because, it's like we think we're doing the right thing for somebody, but we need to help them make their own mistakes so that they learn. And I don't want to blame my mother for my discovering the fantastic world, I say that in jest, of emotional eating, but because I never had to worry about it, I never learned. So now I'm doing the crash course, right? Oh, like for decades, I've been doing the crash course. But I've also learned to not shame myself over it because what does that get me? Just more emotional eating? Yes. So no, So, it's like my cardiologist says, portion control. All she had to do was teach me portion control and I would have been fine. But she used to deny me a lot of things because, you know, she was just worried about my heart. So, and I don't want to say my mom starved me. Absolutely no. My mom kept me healthy. Okay. So, you know, I mean, we did have fun. Sometimes we would go out and eat different things, but I mean, it wasn't like now where I can just run down to McDonald's, right? Or run out to Carl's Jr. or run out to Jack in the Box, you know, any of these places. Before it was like, can we go here? No, not this time. So, you know, it's just stuff like that. I don't want my mom to sound like a bad person. I'm just using it as an example. But we do try to control things in our life. We do try to keep our space, you know, in our own way, you know, perfect, right? Think of people with OCD, you know, where everything has to be in order. Older sibling, are you still on? Can I share this? I want to ask her first because, you know, I kind of just put it out there. Sorry, but there was a story that I literally have in mind, which was a terrible thing to do now that I realize it. But I thought it was funny at the time, which I realize now is kind of bullying behavior. So I'm really ashamed. I mean, I'm smiling, but I'm actually kind of ashamed because it's like, ooh. So, okay, so sibling says yes. So years ago when sibling and I first became roommates, I did not know that she had, I don't want to say that she has intense OCD, but she definitely has she definitely has OCD. Not like you see it like the what was that movie? Is it As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson? Is that the name of it? Where he had major OCD, where he has to turn everything like 4 or 5 times or 3 or 4 times, and not like that. Okay, but she does have the kind of OCD where everything has a place, everything needs to be put where it is, all cans have to be, you know, facing forward, and so. Another one of my best friends and I were in the house. We were watching a hockey game, and older sibling had gone to her hockey game, and my friend came over, and he and I were like, let's play a joke on Laura. All right. And normally, if, you know, it wasn't something to do with mental health, it probably would have been funny. But in hindsight and retrospect, I do feel bad. I know I'm smiling, but I do. I really do feel bad. This is not a happy smile. This is my mom's face, where it's like a nervous smile. Like, I don't know what else to do, so I'm laughing. My mom was a nervous laugher. It's so funny. It's like I hit my head and she starts laughing, and she's like, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. I just don't know what else to do. But anyways, I'll just call him other bestie and I. We turned a bunch of the cans upside down, turned them around. I mean, we didn't move them. We just kind of flipped them or turned them. We basically made the cabinet about one shelf of the soups look disorganized. And this poor girl comes home, goes into the cabinet, goes to grab something, and she just gasps so loud that we both hear it. And we're like, and she's like, oh my God. And she got upset. And I was like, why are you so mad? Because I didn't really understand, right? I wasn't in touch with my own mental health at the time. But she was. And so, you know, and she's just like, I can't believe you guys did this. And she tried to laugh it off. You know, she tried not to make us feel bad about it. But when we talked about it years later, I still feel bad about that. Haven't done it on purpose since. In fact, everywhere I go now, I make sure all the cans are straight, just in case. Like even in my dad's stuff, when I'm putting his stuff up, it's just like I make sure everything's straight just in case, because, you know, it does make sense though, because you want to be able to see what you're grabbing. But you know, that's a control thing. And, you know, and I think sometimes when things get out of control, like with clutter or with, you know, just it can be very debilitating, you know, and it can just make you not want to do anything, and it can be very overwhelming for that person. So, but believe it or not, you can't control everything in life. You know, I mean, we can try, but 9 times out of 10, we're going to fall on our face. So that is just one example of, you know, control issues. And, you know, or a couple examples actually of control issues, you know. And for me personally, I used to try to control everything in my life. You know, I think, to be honest, one of the reasons I was single for so long is because I was trying to control the fact that I did not want to be hurt again, that I was afraid of being hurt, you know. And now it's just kind of like, please, God, send me someone. But But not out of desperation, because I want it to be a good thing, right? A relationship should not define you. It should be a bonus in your life, okay? It should be that thing that brings you joy and laughter and good times. I mean, yeah, you're going to have a roller coaster sometimes because nothing is perfect. But when you know how to approach things in a more sensible and calm manner, it gets a little better, you know. So the next one, 5, personalization. When you feel personally responsible for things you can't control. Okay, older sibling, forgive me, but I am calling her out in this one. This poor girl thinks that she's responsible for every bad thing that happens in my life. I'm so sorry. There should have, or, you know, for a lot of things, there should have been something I could do. You know, what if I had done this, or what if I had done that? And you know what? I'm guilty of this as well. I am absolutely guilty of this as well. What if I had done it this way? What if I had done it that way? Well, it's just like, you know, with whoever, was it Edison or whatever? I just found a billion other ways. Okay, 1,000 other ways, 100 other ways, whatever. Not to do it. How not to do it. And that's all it is. Mistakes are just test runs. Okay, let's put it that way. Mistakes are just test runs. But when it comes to being human, you can't really always control what happens in someone else's life. You know, you can't, you know, if I can't control the fact that my mom got cancer, but I took it personally because I've been told by a bunch of people that I'm a healer. That, you know, that's why I took up Reiki, to just kind of learn how to wield my energy. You know, forgive me, I know I'm going a little metaphysical on people, but you know, but I've been told this by different people, and some that don't even know each other, that I'm a natural healer. But I took it personally because I couldn't heal my mom. But as much as people hate this term, that everything happens for a reason, everything, I believe, does happen for a reason. You know, and we sometimes don't like it because it can be horrible, bad things. You know, I would rather have my mom here. But to be honest, maybe that was part of my healing journey. Not that I made that happen, but it was her time. And I took it personally because I couldn't do anything about it. I took it personally because I tried to tell her, you need to check with your doctor again because something is amiss. This is not normal behavior for what he's telling you you have. And I feel like if I had intervened and just, you know, logged in as her and said, you need to check me again, maybe something would happen, but it wasn't my responsibility. And so, you know, we personally feel responsible for things we can't control. You know, and I mean, like with older sibling and her RSD, her CRPS. I mean, sometimes I feel like, you know, why can't I heal her? You know, I mean, I try so hard, but why can't I? But I'm working on it. I'm working on it, sibling. So anyways, a lot of times we tend to try to personalize other people's things. You know, we try to make ourselves responsible for their behaviors. Their behaviors are their behaviors. If it has something to do with you, then ask them how to fix it. But if they're just using you as a punching bag, you need to step back and go, I'm not telling you to walk away because that's your choice. But you do need to set a boundary, and you do need to step back and go, And if I'm doing that to anybody, you need to tell me. Because I am in this position in my life now where it's just kind of like, I just want to fix whatever I can fix of myself so that I can just go out there and be of service to other people and be a good human. I just want to be a good human. That's it. I just want to be a good human. So, you know what? This is not the caffeine. This is me today. I've had some mind-blowing experiences in the last 2 days. And this morning with baby sibling and I going back and forth, and I'm just kind of like, you know, it really is kind of like blowing my mind. So yesterday, Sammy and I had one, and it was kind of like, whoa, but the way baby sibling and I got to that was just kind of like, you know, so it was amazing. So anyways, owning the truth. Oh, this one's my favorite. This one is my favorite, and I'll tell you why. When you are certain you are right and your opinion is the truth. I cannot tell you how many people sit there and rake me over the coals because their opinion is the truth. I think my facial expression said it all. Because I'm not even sure how to broach this one without turning it into soapbox hour, and we don't have time for soapbox hour. So when you are certain you are right and your opinion is the truth, no, your opinion is not the truth. It's an opinion. If you have facts to back it up, good for you, because then it's the truth. But if it's just your opinion, or it's just you parroting something else, and when I say parroting, like a parrot, that's, and you don't do your own research, that's you just trying to make everyone believe that it's your truth. So stop it. And, sometimes I did this too, but I do a lot of research, and I read a lot, not always a book, but I like to do a lot of research. So I pick up a lot of tidbits of knowledge. I have a friend that used to call it useless knowledge, but I like to think of it as tidbits of knowledge because, you know what? I can't tell you how many Trivial Pursuit games I used to win because of all the nuggets of wisdom sitting in my head. So, it's like a gold mine. Now, that doesn't mean that I've never been guilty of this, because I have been. I think we all have. Let's put it this way. There is not one person that can go through this entire list and say that they have never done any of these things. And even if it was just once, we're human. We're going to do this. I mean, it could have been when you were a kid, right? But sometimes when we're kids, we get caught in those things and our parents go, no, you shouldn't do that. But then, yes, thank you, Muddy. Jeopardy knowledge, which I don't know. I have to, just sidebarring really quick. Don't ever play Jeopardy with sibling when the law stuff comes up. That girl runs it every time. I don't know how she does it, but she does. She just like boop, 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 boop. Same with the Bible stuff. I'm the one that went to Catholic school, and she she rakes me over the coals. Don't tell my mom. But anyways, yes, but I like that Jeopardy knowledge. My mind is full of little Jeopardy questions waiting to be answered. So, but again, let's try to keep our opinions to ourselves, or even just state it as an opinion. Well, my opinion is that blah, 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 but if you're trying to state your opinion as fact, please do your research first. There are times when I want to share something on Instagram or, to one of my Instagram stories, and I'm like, this just does my spidey instincts tingle, right? And I'll look it up, and it's kind of sitting on the edge of being truthful. And I'm kind of like, no, I can't post that, because that can go two ways. Because I always need to make sure that if someone tries to fact check me, that I can say, look, this is where, I got my information, this, and this. Somebody did try to fact check me once, and I gave them, I kept my receipts, and I showed them. And not like showed them like I showed them. I mean, I showed my receipts, I did my research. So, and they didn't argue back. They're just like, oh, okay, well, so, So number 7, should thinking. When you have rules or expectations of how things or people should react. Yeah, I think I'm guilty of this too. Not so much anymore. So, here's the thing. The reason I'm trying, or the reason I'm personalizing some of these is because I want people to see that when we're on a healing journey, or before we start that healing journey, for whatever brought us to that line, whatever kind of, event you went through, trauma you went through, grief you went through, depression that you went through, whatever it is that brought you to the starting line of the healing journey, a lot of these things can really be stacked up, not in your favor, but things that you can take and say, okay, I need to use this as a learning tool and not do this again. Just not a mistake, but a test run. All right. And just figure out how to move through it. So when you have rules or expectations of how things or people should react, I'm not sure how to give an example on this, but I think a lot of times It could be someone who's in a more alpha position, I will say, and I don't want to say, I don't want to move into terms of trauma, but someone who can be overly alpha, or overbearing, who says, no, you should be blah, blah, blahing this way, and this is how you should handle it, and blah, the person that kind of seems to know it all is the direction I feel like I'm being pulled in. But we can't control how people are going to react. Or like, when we were growing up, oh, are you going to cry now? And, then you're afraid to cry because people think you shouldn't be reacting that way. But it's like, you know what? We were given tear ducts for a reason, not just to clean our eyes, okay? But to just kind of clean our souls. The tear ducts have two functions, to water your eyes and to cleanse your soul, to let all that icky stuff up and out through your eyelids and eventually when you're blowing the snot out of your nose. But, okay, this is going to sound weird, but it just hit my head. Have you ever blown your nose so hard? I literally blew my nose so hard one time. I felt it come out of my, not anything, but just air come out of my tear duct. It was the weirdest feeling ever. It's kind of like, wow, some clear sinuses there. Anyway, like I said, you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything when you watch this show. But yeah, this is also, I think, part of a control fallacy, okay, where, you assume you can control everything that happens. You can't control how someone's going to react. Even in a Hallmark moment, right, where you're like, oh, I expected this Hallmark moment. That absolutely did not go the way I thought it was going to go. I watched this cute video the other day where this little boy asked for a dirt bike and he wanted a red dirt bike, but he just generalized, I guess, with his parents. And the caption actually said, this is not the way I thought he would react. But, he's opening his present and it's a toy dirt bike. And the mom says, is that the color you wanted? And this kid was so humble. He's all like, no, but because he's, oh my God, it's a dirt bike and I wanted a dirt bike. And, and I think he's trying to play it off because he's just at that age where I think he could have a dirt bike. And she's all, is it the right color? He's like, no. And she's all, what color did you want? And he's all, red, but it's okay because I love this. This is great. And then behind him, what's happening is his dad is wheeling in the actual dirt bike, right? And, and when he hits the thing to start it, the kid hears it, turns around, and the mom thinks that this kid is just going to go like, yeah, like he turns around and cries and just goes right to his mom for a hug. And I mean, I almost started crying. It was so sweet. But both parents were like, even the dad's like, that's not the reaction I expected. And the mom's just like, oh, but he was just so excited. Then he was happy and he ran to the dad and the bike. But, you couldn't control how that worked out. And it turns out it worked out better than they expected, and their child, they're doing a good job because their child was very humble and like, okay, well, and you can see in his eyes, this is not what I meant, but I love it because, great toy, mom and dad. And he tried not to let on. And then all of a sudden his dreams were fulfilled. And because of that, it was just tears. But, so we can't control how people are going to react. And that's the simple truth. We can always hope that they react in the way that we hope them or want them to. It's like when you break up with someone, right? You think, okay, well, maybe you're just assuming they feel the same way you do, but then you tell them that the last person I was with, it was a very toxic, dysfunctional relationship. And I didn't know it at the time. I learned it later when I was on my healing journey. It was probably one of the healthier relationships I ever had. I know. And not a bad person. We were both just kind of damaged in our own way. And it didn't work out, but I did not expect him to cry. I also didn't expect him to think I was cheating on him, which I was not. I'd like to make that very clear right now. Was not. I actually ended up moving in with Sissy Joe as a roommate first, before older sibling. And, but I did not expect that reaction because I thought, oh, he's just going to be like, okay, well, I ignore you half the time anyway. So, but it turns out he was just comfortable, but it was just the comfort level kind of turned into, someone forgot I was in the relationship too. And it just, it kind of became, it is what it is. So number 8, emotional reasoning. When you believe that how you feel is evidence or reflects reality. I think a lot of people who have indignant mental health go through this. Like I said, on social media, when people don't have a strong support system, they think they turn to social media. They turn to comfort from people there. And we all know that on social media, some people can just be complete assholes, which just kind of exacerbates the entire situation that the person's going through. And, sometimes in their brain, the reality of the mean people, it could be 2 mean people and 10 very nice, supportive people, but they're going to focus in, again, on the negative focus, right? They're going to focus in on the negative stuff because, they believe that what they're feeling now is being validated. So like I said, you could have 10 people going, no, you're going to be okay. Don't listen to the lies in your brain. Your brain is lying to you right now. It's rebelling. It's doing this. It's doing that. I always say my brain is rebelling when I go through a spiral or a mood or an episode. And it's just, and you have to figure out how to work through it. And I've slowly learned how to ask for help. And it's been difficult because you really have to have a sense of vulnerability to ask for help. I used to hate crying because I used to think that, oh, well, it was, because it went back to, oh, are you going to cry now? You're going to, or you cry over everything. You'd cry if a blender broke. And it's like, I don't care now if I cry because a blender broke. Maybe it was my favorite blender, but I cry. And there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you, therapy. So there. But anyways, when you believe that how you feel is evidence or reflects reality, when we zero in on the negative stuff, we just automatically think that's how it's going to be, that's how it is for the rest of our lives. I just think sometimes this is why people, just hit that end and then leap. Because their cognitive distortions are so bad, they just can't find their way back. Whenever I see somebody in distress, whether it's because they're looking for attention or because they really do need that attention, I can always discern which is which. I had a person in my life that I know that a long time, that I knew, that would kind of weaponize their mental health, and they would use it to get attention. And not the kind of attention that says, hey, I'm seeking help, but the kind of attention that says, well, you're paying attention to everyone else. How come you're not paying attention to me? It was more of a narcissistic behavior. And, I don't want someone to use that example and say, am I a narcissist? No, this person is. And, it's something we've had to deal with because, meanwhile, on the other end of that whole situation was somebody who was like just trying to hide everything and their feelings. And then there's a third person that, where I turned my focus to because they were really struggling. So, you have to learn how to discern, but until you know how to discern, sometimes we just have to be there for that person and say, look, you know what, I'm here for you. What do you need? Tell me, how can I help you? I have a friend that goes through so much in her brain, but if we side chat, and it's like, kind of like, well, what, she'll sit there and step right out of herself and go, what can I do to help you? And she's like, you know what? Just asking made me feel better. So we have to focus on, the emotional reasoning. Is what I'm going through really reflecting my reality? Is it really evidence of my reality? Or is it just, me catastrophizing things? Okay. So number 9, overgeneralizing. When a single negative event occurs and you believe it's a pattern, that's overthinking to me. Definitely overthinking. I'm a chronic overthinker. But yeah. But when a single negative event occurs and you believe it's a pattern. Okay, so this one I knew I was going to have trouble on because I'm not really sure how to deal with this one. Do you girls know how to deal with this overgeneralizing? Get back to me on that. We're going to move to number 10, labeling. When you label yourself or someone negatively as such as I'm a loser. Don't label yourself unless it's going to be something kind and positive, like I'm a winner, or I'm enough, or you're amazing, or you are enough. Last night I surprised myself. Apparently I wrote on my mirror, you are enough, and then put a big heart. But then I thought, you know what, that takes up too much of my mirror. I'm going to erase it. And so I put on the bottom where I can actually see it when I'm brushing my teeth, I am enough. But I finally was like, after I showered last night, I was kind of looking at it and I was like, what does that say? It's like I've been trying to figure it out for 2 days, and the other night when I showered, I didn't even think about looking, but then last night when I showered, I was like, oh, I could see it a little better, right? So I was like, you are enough. And because I'm sitting there, I'm like, you are, what is it? Because I was writing in bubbly letters. And then I saw you are enough. And I'm like, you know what? I am enough. And then I'm like, oh, and I wrote that at the bottom. So I was very kind of proud of myself because, I just even a year ago, I didn't feel worthy. Just even 6 months ago, I struggled with my own self-worth. No matter how much I'm working on my self-worth and my self-love, there are times when I truly, truly struggle with it. When my brain rebels, or when I just feel, when you start to feel really single on certain days and you just feel like, wow, is this going to be my life? Am I going to be a spinster? And am I going to die alone? Are my cats going to eat me? Just those really catastrophizing moments where you overthink everything. But then I come back to my senses and I realize that I'm very fortunate to have people that care about me. I have my family, I have my friends, I have, fortunately baby sibling is a lot younger than me, so she has promised me that no matter what happens in this world, I will not die alone. So and I think she has assigned her boys that responsibility just in case. But my youngest nephew I know would be there, and my older one. But yeah, so but that's catastrophizing, right? I mean, I'm just expecting everything to go wrong. But when we label ourselves, we're doing more harm than good, unless you're labeling yourself in a positive manner. So instead of labeling yourself or somebody else as, oh, you're a loser or I'm a loser, you're an interesting person and I'm an interesting person. I mean, my dad is so old school sometimes. We were watching a show yesterday and the guy had earrings going up his ears and he's all, why do people do that? Why would anyone want to do that? And he's all, well, you probably like it. And I'm like, no, I just keep thinking, ouch, that must have hurt because I have 2 pierced ears and I always wanted 2 more, like 1 on each side, like just 2 on each side really. But the pain was so that I'm just kind of like, no, the one time was enough. I'll just deal with it. Okay, I'll put stickers there or something if I absolutely need to do it. But no. So, but it's just kind of like, I don't care what other people do. Someone wants to wear a ring in their nose, wear a ring in your nose. Someone wants to wear a thing in their eyebrow, wear it in your eyebrow. Somebody wants to have a tattoo, get a tattoo. I don't care. That's your personalization of yourself. Oh, Sammy, you have 11 earrings? You are like the bravest person I know. I really want 2 more. Like not 2 more on each side, but I just want 1 more on each side, but I'm so scared. I know, right? So my dad is a type 2 person. I have to share this. My dad's a type 2 person, right? And so before we got him the meter, he would have to do the finger prick, and he's like, well, do you want to see what your blood test is? So we're in Tucson visiting baby sibling, and she's like, yeah, let's do it, let's see what it's like. So she does it, and she does the finger prick, no problem. I'm like this, I mean, I give blood, not a problem, but the finger prick, and I think it's the sound more than anything, because it doesn't really hurt. It's just like a real quick pinch, but it's just kind of like, so imagine me trying to get earrings. Oh my God. Anyway, so labeling. Don't label. All right. It's as simple as that. Don't label anyone. Number 11, just world thinking. When you assume that everything in the world will be balanced fairly. I'm not really sure how to go on that one either. I mean, like you think, I don't know, like you have vigilante mentality or something. I don't understand what that one means. When you assume that everything in the world will be balanced fairly. Or you don't like the fact that someone has more than you. or that you have less than someone. I don't know. I honestly, I don't, if you understand that, please share with me. Sammy, earrings are a real quick pinch too. I know, but like I said, it's just, it's the anticipation that scares me. I literally have 2 tattoos on me that had so much shading, and it hurt, but I was able to just kind of zen out the pain, right? But I freak out for a quick pinch. Yeah, I know. There's some wild thinking happening in there. But anyways, so if either one of you or anybody else understands just world thinking or overgeneralizing, please help me with those, okay? And number 12, the last but not least, fortune telling. When you think the future is set in stone and the outcome is sure. There's someone I know right now watching this going, that is you, Shelley Marie. Where you think the future is set in stone and the outcome is sure. I don't want to be a spinster. Did that sound familiar? Because I literally said that like 2 minutes ago. I think I'm laughing through this because, when I was writing these down yesterday, I'm like, oh, these are really good. Today I'm going over them and it's kind of like, shit, I really got more work to do on myself. There's some work that needs to be done on Shelley Marie. But hey, what is it? Acknowledging it is the first step, right? What is the word? Accountability, acknowledging it, not denying it. Not denying it is the first key to healing it. So, but fortune telling, when you think the future is set in stone and the outcome is sure. Now, there are some people who believe that their life is written out word for word, verse for verse. And and see, Sammy says she doesn't understand that one either. And I'm assuming she means just world thinking. I don't know. When you assume that everything in the world will be balanced fairly, the only thing I can think of that someone's thinking of is that, everybody expects everyone to be equal across the board. I mean, yes, everybody should be, should have access to the same things. But that doesn't necessarily mean the same bank accounts. A lot of people work hard for what they have, and they work tooth and nail. They put aside everything for that path. Or I don't know. That's just me. I don't know. I'm really kind of not overgeneralizing, but I'm generalizing on that one because I really don't understand that one. Hopefully tomorrow, when we go back over the rest of them and how to challenge these thoughts, that one will be in there, because I was reading over what tomorrow's subject is about, and some of them, I don't know if they're just worded differently or they're just completely different, things that we would think through. But hopefully that one's in there because I am curious. But number 12, fortune telling, again, when you think the future is set in stone and the outcome is sure. So she says, yeah, that one, when you read it the first time, I was confused. I'm still confused by it. I don't understand what it means. So I'm so sorry, guys. I blew my nose again before the show, but let's not fortune tell our life. We don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, there's a lot of people out there that believe that, before we come here, we put exactly what's going to happen in our lives. But I think even if that is the case, that you can decide the kind of life you want to live, I think it's more of a roadmap, and we take detours and, we might take side routes, but the end destination or certain, main destinations, like on a train line, right? But in this case, it's like a highway with side roads and back roads. We don't know. We may have a plan laid out for us ahead of us, but how we get to each main stop is up to us. And that might be what the journey is about, saying, yeah, I plan on being here around this time, but what do I have to heal in my soul to get to this place? And sometimes it can take longer. You might be delayed. If it, your little choo-choo train of life, you might be delayed a little bit because maybe you had to make a sudden stop. Maybe your train is being held up by the baddies or something, and you have to defend your train. So I know I'm getting little Tales of Wells Fargo here. God, I love that show. It's an old show, but I love that show. Dale Robertson, I think, is his name. So anyways, but yeah, that was like from the 50s. But it's a great show. I love Westerns. But yeah, so anyways, and it's actually based on a real guy. I brought my book home, which sucks because I was reading the life story of the real guy that the Tales of Wells Fargo was about. But when I went home, I didn't know I was coming back, so I left my book at home. But anyways, yeah, so that's that. When you think the future is set in stone and the outcome is sure. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry I was all over the board. I did not mean for this show to go for an hour, but yeah, I don't know. I think I giggled my way through this one because I really did not feel like I knew what I was talking about, because some of these were just hard. Some of these were just, and I think because, we have to go through them that, to heal it. And so I know I have some work to do, but, whatever happens, if you identify with any of these things, don't shame yourself, okay? Just know that it's something that needs to be healed, and then work on it, do your best to work your way through it so that it's not, you don't have that cognitive distortion and that you can heal it. So I'll see everybody back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelly Marie Lucas. Anybody can watch, so, and you can find me across the board, YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, and TikTok. All right. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, girls, for coming on. And I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.